Hi and welcome to another video in the RHCE video series. Today's video is on firewall rules. So essentially managing firewall rules using Ansible. So the examples I'm going to use again is HTTP server, and we're going to open the firewall rules for it. You'll currently see we've just I've actually closed the firewall for it manually, so we're currently unable to access the system's actually listening on port 8080, and we can see it's unable to establish a connection at the moment because of the firewall rule in place. So what we're going to do is create a new firewall rule using the Ansible Firewall D module, which allows us to then manage the firewall essentially for Red Hat. So let's do a pretty simple example and open up the firewall rules. The first thing we may need to do is actually check the modules installed. In most cases it should be installed automatically. Obviously you can run the playbook and you'll get a horrendous error which probably will tell you that it's not installed. However, a quick check and the way to install it as well is just do a Ansible Galaxy. So the Galaxy is where all the different packages can be downloaded. So we go to collection, we just click return here, we get the usage. So the collection action, we can just do a -h and just get the information about different actions available to us. So we've got we can build, we can also publish and stuff if you have your own sort of thing for the Ansible Galaxy, which is all the different collection of all those packages. But I will do a collection install, and the name is Ansible.POSIX. So I'll do a dependency map first, and we'll just do that process and stuff, and eventually we should get whether it's actually installed or not. If it's not, then it will obviously go ahead and actually download and install the module. So this name here, so it will be Ansible.POSIX. and then the firewall D. In this case, obviously it has other packages under there, which can be obviously also additionally useful. Okay, so we can see it skipping because it's already installed, so that's good to know. So let's go ahead and create a new file. vim, just do http. Okay, so we're going to call it name, add the firewall rules for HTTP services. Okay, the hosts, I'm just going to set it to all. I'm not going to bother with these things. Then we do the tasks. Obviously we have to give the task a name. Call firewall D and add the rules. And then firewalled or firewall D, however you want to pronounce it. And we then have a few options here now. So we've got permanent. So permanent allows you to set the rule as something that will persist after reboot. So if you're pretty sure that the rule is going to be okay, say it's like opening up something rather than perhaps removing the rule, then that's pretty safe to do. But yeah, use this with caution, because you have no get out of jail card with a reboot. If you are unable to, say if you block SSH and you're not unable to access the machine via console for a very simple example. But yeah, you can set this to yes or no, so it's pretty much a yes or no answer here. And we've got the immediate, and that is saying, do you want these rules to actually enact right now? So you can actually say, I want it to be permanent but not immediate. So then you can say, upon reboot, I want this to start working, but until then I don't want this rule in place. So in this case, I want it permanently enabled, and I want it to happen immediately as well. We then have the service we actually want to enable, so we can specify the specific ports. In this case, I'm going to do a bit of Ginger 2 magic, and we'll just put item here as a placeholder. We're then going to set the states. So for rules themselves, we've got 2 states only. So we've got disabled, enabled. So disabled, obviously removing or disabling the rule, and then enable is allowing the rule. So we're going to enable. I'm going to put here with underscore items, and then we just do HTTPD. We can do that shorthand because everyone knows the port for HTTP is 80 TCP. That's too easy. And also you could do the same for HTTPS, but I don't need it for this particular one, so I'm just going to open HTTP and 8080 TCP. So that should do it. Let's see how successful my script is. I should have really disabled gathering of facts. It always seems to take a little while. Oh, I got a bit of a typo there. So it's a very easy one. So look, you can see I've just set the value of the state to be enable rather than enabled. Yeah, I forgot the past present thing with Ansible. So that should be enabled. So let me clear my screen and rerun that. We should be happy now. You can see it looped okay, so it obviously had 2 errors, which means it ran the loop twice. So that's working. So it's just literally the typo and nothing else. We've got it changed. The second one, we've got an exception, invalid service. So that's the service. Okay. Yep. Okay. So the first one is a service because we've got HTTPD. HTTP. We need to actually add, rather than service, that should be a port. In fact, so let's just prove the loop. So if I prove the loop with so I do actually need 8080, so I'll add that slightly differently. So just do HTTPS, so I can prove the loop works. Yeah, and I still didn't set gather facts off. Okay, so we've got a change for HTTPS, so that does work okay. It's just I'm requesting a service, but actually I want a port. So let me go ahead and make a slight modification. So what I'll do is have 2 calls. So I have one for the service based rules, and then we'll just do a new line here, and we'll call it name add. Before I forget, let's do that quickly. I don't want that anymore. That's taking too long. So add firewall the add firewall port based rule. I'll just put rule single rule. So again, firewall D. We then want it permanent again. Yes, immediate. Yes. And now we're going to say port equals and state enabled. So that looks good. So it's a bit faster without the gather facts as well. So we just see that the HTTP and HTTPS is successfully run, and then we've got the Firewall D port-based rule being added as well. So that looks happy. One thing we could do is to double check is we could print out the information on the specific all the zones and get the output. So I could just quickly add a get info on so I'll just run a command firewall command list all zones so I can get the output of firewall D and to see what the status is, and we can then just register it. Register as firewall output. We can then do a debug, set the var. Let's just do a firewall output dot standard out underscore lines. We can then run this again. Then run this again and see what the output looks like. Okay, so we've got the entire spiel here. So let's have a little look. So we can see got quite a few zones. I think because I've been playing around with it in previous videos. We should have SCP, internal libvirt. What's the active? Okay, so we've got, here we go. So this is the public interface, or it's the public zone. We can see it's tied to our active interface. We can see the services that are set. So we've got the standard cockpit. We've got the DHCP v6 client. We've got HTTP, HTTPS, and SSH. And then we've got that additional port of 8080 TCP. So now that looks like it's added it successfully, and I can be pretty happy. I can even do, rather than get all zones, we can just get that specific zone rather than the entire thing, but laziness prevails in this case. Yep, and if I refresh that, it's now working. So the firewall rule has enacted immediately. We will still unable to reach it on port 80 because, without HTTPS of course, because I haven't done any kind of cleverness here. So what we're going to do is we'll set up a port forward using Firewall D. That will be another good example to run through here. Okay. CP that, we'd call it port forward. So YAML, that'll do. VIM port forward. Okay, so we're gonna change some of these name details. So I'm going to port forward from port 80 to 8080, where we know we've got active service. Okay, so let's go host, GAFAX no. Okay, so I'm just going to call that set up the port forward. and we're going to do a permanent immediate. We're not going to use service. We're going to do a rich rule, so a more complex rule essentially, and we're going to have that placeholder again, so just do a rule there, so just item, and state is enabled, and then we're going to do with items, and then we're going to set up our rich rule. So rule is, we're going to forward hyphen port is 80, protocol is TCP, to port equals 8080, family equals IPv4. So just tell you what's going on here. So the rule is to the port they're going to come in on is the forward port, so port 80 on protocol TCP, so it's TCP protocol, and then the to port where they're going out, they're going to be redirected to is port 8080, and that's of the family and IPv4. So it's specifically for IPv4 based connections. So let's get rid of this gump. I don't think I need that anymore, so I can just do some DDs, clean up all that. I can get info on the firewall state. I'm happy with that. What we'll do actually is, instead of list all zone, let's do info zone public. So I should just get public output. That's the only one really interface we really care about. Yeah, I could also set the zone in here. I should set the zone to public, so it's definitely specifically targeting that zone. So I think that's good. Let's give this a whirl. Call the right script. What have I done here? So it says, I see the issue already. So it's actually forward port and then port equals, yep, so that's, yep, that's my mistake here. So I've just literally telling it, I forgot to tell the rule is forward port and then the port is 80. Yeah, that makes a bit more sense. So let's give this a run again, and hopefully it should be a bit more successful. Yep, we've got success. And we can now see in the debug, this is the output of the public interface. So target default, we've got all our same ports we had open. We have a rich rule. So it's got, you can see a bit of horrible formatting, but that's just the way it will show it. We can see the family is IPv4, the forward port is 80, protocol is TCP, and the to port is port 80. So this is enabled straight away. So let's give this a go. And we can see we've immediately redirected. So we're now on port 80, or we can specifically specify the port 80, but you don't really need to do it for HTTP plain. And we're getting redirected to port 8080 stuff automatically. So all of it works on port 80 without the user having to know that actually we're running in the back end on port 8080. So it's quite a nice little solution for that. So it's really quite nice Firewall D. It's really quite powerful stuff. You can do some quite nice stuff with rich rules, and it's just a matter of being a bit clever with the rules essentially. You can do basically whatever you can do within Firewall D, this actual firewall command line, but you just have to be a bit more clever with the ritual entries. You can do obviously some looping with the Ginger 2 rules and just have that iterate through and add and remove rules accordingly. Thanks as always for watching my videos. I really appreciate everyone that's given me any kind of support. It's really appreciated. Thanks everyone for liking, and anyone that subscribes. Thanks again for watching. Bye bye. Right now I've just popped up on the screen my TeePublic page. That's for any kind of CSG merch, if that's anything you're interested in. Got my Ko-fi page for any kind donations, if that's something you're interested in. Yep, and also just the details of my Discord server, so that's the best place to ask questions. Also, we've got, obviously, you can ask questions in the comments and I'll try and help out where I can, but Discord place is a great place. We've got a bit of a community going there, and you can reach out to myself and also the community, and someone will try and help you. Yeah, it's a great community we're building there. Well, thanks again, and I'll see you at the next video. Cheers.